Hello and a very good evening. Well, a joke is a joke, and a joke is a joke, and a joke is still a joke even if you don't laugh. So repeat after me. A joke is a joke. If you find subject in a joke, and if you take joke too seriously, the joke still stays a joke. But you too can then become a joke. Kunal Kamra issued a statement. Well, you all know the stand-up comedian who is now in middle of a massive controversy. While doing stand-up comedy, he has also decided to stand up for himself. And he stood up. He stood up and decided not to apologize. Even after what has happened at the Habitat where he performed, even after threats to him, even after police complaint, even after many finding his statement to be objectionable, especially Shiv Sainik, Kunal Kamra has decided not to apologize. Because for Kunal Kamra, what he has said, even if it offends anyone, it is still a joke, because joke at its very essence is nothing but humor. And humor is subjective. You might find something funny, you might not find something funny. But because you don't find something funny, doesn't make that funny stuff any less a funny or any less a joke, as long as there are people who have already reacted to it, laughed on it. So when Kunal Kamra had done this performance inside the Habitat probably a month back, there were people inside that very hall who were entertained. The joke at times is also seen as a message of revolt, while tickling the funny bone can also question the power and can also demand accountability while making people laugh. So Kunal Kamra, the man who is caught in this massive storm, to some extent political storm, to some extent social storm, to some extent storm on social media, where you would always find a stormy day or a stormy night, stormy evening, where people are always ready to fire their banter on social media, even while having their conflicts on breakfast. So Kunal Kamra has decided to ignore all of that, and he has issued a statement. So let's begin the show with his statement. Kunal Kamra says that to those who are busy leaking my number or calling me incessantly, I'm sure you have realized by now that all unknown calls go to my voicemail, where you will be subjected to the very song that you hate. To the media faithfully reporting this circus, remember that press freedom in India ranks at 159. Well, that's a fact and not a joke. I will not apologize. What I said is exactly what Mr. Ajit Pawar, first Deputy Chief Minister, said about Mr. Eknath Shinde, second Deputy Chief Minister. I don't fear this mob, and I will not be hiding under my bed waiting for this to die down. However, I am willing to cooperate with police and courts for any lawful action taken against me. But will the law be fairly and equally deployed against those who have decided that vandalism is the appropriate response to being offended by a joke, and against the unelected members of the BMC who have arrived today at Habitat without prior notice and tore the place down with hammers? Perhaps for my next venue, I will opt for Elphinstone Bridge or any other structure in Mumbai that is in need of speedy demolition. So those who thought by demolishing a part of the Habitat, the spirit of Kunal Kamra would be demolished, well, this response makes it very, very clear it's not. They have not succeeded in demolishing his spirit. So much so that Kunal Kamra has once again put out a post with an excerpt from his previous comedy or comedy night, and at the same time has also edited that, added some more videos, more excerpts from what has happened in the past, and made it a collage to make it more subjective, relevant in today's time. So this is what Kunal Kamra's second response had been in form of an audio visual. Let's play it.
एक और एंथम हम होंगे कंगाल हम होंगे कंगाल हम होंगे कंगाल एक दिन मन में अंधविश्वास देश का सत्यानाश हम होंगे कंगाल एक दिन होंगे नंगे चारों ओर करेंगे दंगे चारों पुलिस के पंगे चारों ओर एक दिन मन में नथुराम हरकतें आसाराम हम होंगे कंगाल एक दिन होगा गाय का प्रचार लेके हाथों में हथियार होगा संघ का शिष्टाचार एक दिन जनता बेरोजगार गरीबी की कगार हम होंगे कंगाल एक दिन
So, Kunal Kamra did not cow down. Kunal Kamra has issued two statements refusing to apologize and saying that he's going to stand up for what he thinks is right. But then let's go back to Sunday night. Let's go back to Sunday night, the night when Kunal Kamra did not perform. Kunal Kamra did not perform on Sunday night. But then there were Shiv Sainiks or Shiv Sena supporters of Eknath Shinde. They reached the habitat and then they vandalized the place, and they really thought that this has happened on Sunday. They were charging on the people, saying, "Where is Kunal Kamra? Find him out. अभी 1 घंटा पहले हुआ है, कहाँ छिपा के रखा है, निकालो उसको." I mean, if that is not a joke, then what is? This is what happened inside the habitat as Shiv Sainiks, supporters of Eknath Shinde, offended by a joke, went inside the habitat when the show for another comedy was on and the hall was filled with people. There were people watching, there were spectators watching the show, and the show was stopped for no fault of that comedian, for no fault of those who bought tickets and went there for some lighter moment, for no fault of theirs. Yet, these people barged inside and then kept on asking, कहाँ पे है, अभी इधर पे था, 1 घंटा पहले शो किया है, झूठ मत बोल. And then there were multiple explicits. My editor had ball of a time while editing that because every second he had to add a beep. So, good luck, have fun. This is the video.
पहले करके रिकॉर्ड किया
पहले का वीडियो और अभी बोलता है कि बहुत पहले गया उड़ करके 1 घंटा पहले का वीडियो कभी किया बता ना वो बाहर बोला हम लोग को मालूम बता कभी किया
मैं आपको दिखा दूंगा नहीं है वो इधर मैं उसको आपको फोन लगा के देता हूँ
फोन बंद किया हुआ है चला फोन ना बोलना होता पहला तो जैसे इधर लाया था वैसे इधर
लेकर आते
शूट यही हुआ ना अभी करो ना नेता वो सब कर रहा है.
So you saw that video, and these were their words. There were certain words we can't really publish because they are too offensive and we have a law to follow. Well, the constitution of the country reminds us about certain laws. Now, while it allows us or ensures freedom of speech, the constitution also allows us to be more responsible, or rather wants us to be more responsible while exercising the freedom of speech. But there is no law in this constitution that essentially validates taking law into your own hands even if you're offended. So if you're angry, violence is certainly not a validated response to your anger. Going back to that Sunday night, we were appalled to see that this vandalism, this ransacking happened right in front of police. I mean, imagine men in uniform standing, and right in front of them there were people vandalizing just not the habitat but also the hotel which houses the habitat. There were police people, literally, watch that video carefully. There are police people standing at the gate, and then these people were literally vandalizing the entrance to the hotel, breaking the glass facade, breaking the gate, and the police people were quietly watching. Imagine if these were not Shiv Sena Eknath Shinde workers, rather belong to Shiv Sena Uddhav Thackeray faction, would the police have been this kind? Probably not. Probably not. So here the question definitely is, as how come this happened in front of the police? Law and order is a state subject. But here in this curious case, Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis, the Chief Administrator, the Chief Minister himself has come out in support of Eknath Shinde. That's your choice. But he also went on to say that if you violate freedom of speech, then there would be consequences. They need to be taught a lesson. The same sentiment has been echoed by Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar. The same sentiment has been echoed by Eknath Shinde's party members. So violence officially now becomes a response to anger, endorsed by the government, validated by the government, and even though about 12 people were taken to task, rather I would say shown arrested very briefly, then they were released on bail immediately, almost immediately. So it was more like customary. If tomorrow court says, did you follow rule? They would say, yes, you have followed rule. They were arrested. But then were they punished? No, they have not been punished. They were let gone. Most importantly, the Shiv Sena workers have also issued a verbal threat over phone to Kunal Kamra. And there is also a sequence which you have dug out. This video is literally hilarious. These people were looking for Kunal Kamra's phone number. They managed to get the phone number, and then they were literally tossing from one to another as who would dial up Kunal Kamra. What was the purpose? The purpose was to call him up and then kind of verbally abuse him, threaten him. They did all of that, but then the sequence leading to that phone call is it's really funny. So please watch this before we move on.
भंगड़ी पहने हम लोग अरे नंबर ले लीजिए बोला था आधी मला विचारायचं असतं ऑर्गेनाइज तो जाता है ना भाई बोलने के पहला जो शो गाली देके सीधा बात करना सावकार नहीं है तिच्या आईची गाण मला शिवून बोला मला शिवून बोल तिच्या आईची गाण याला बोलो इथं शिंदे बरोबर काय बोललं हाँ हाँ बोलो
जगदीश शर्मा बोल रहा हूँ सूचना शाखा में। क्या बोले थे तूने साहब के बारे में वीडियो डाला है?
कौन सा साहब है ये?
शिंदे साहब,
हाँ।
हमारे मुख्यमंत्री, उनके बारे में क्या वीडियो डाला है?
अभी तो मुख्यमंत्री का है, उप मुख्यमंत्री
उप मुख्यमंत्री है, उनके बारे में क्या वीडियो डाला है तूने?
देखा ना आपने वीडियो?
देखा है, होटल को जाके देख ले, हम लोग ने क्या हाल किया। अभी तू जिधर मिलेगा ना तेरा भी वही हाल होगा, समझा क्या? किधर रहता है तू?
तमिलनाडु।
तमिलनाडु तेरी तमिलनाडु में आके मारेगा देखो, वही है कुणाल कामरा। हेलो,
आजा आजा तमिलनाडु आजा।
किधर आने का?
तमिलनाडु।
तमिलनाडु में कैसा पूछेगा भाई? कुणाल कामरा तमिलनाडु में कैसा पूछेगा बोलते हैं? बात कर, एक मिनट हमारे सर से बात करना।
So, Hansal Mehta, filmmaker, director, he put out a post Now, so far we were talking about Kunal Kamra. Now, wait for a new entrant. Kunal Kamra has decided not to apologize. Kunal Kamra has decided to take it head on. Kunal Kamra has kind of invited a political storm. In middle of all of that, while social media is abuzz with Kunal Kamra, either supporting him, not supporting him, we also have Hansal Mehta, a director, who has put out a post. And if we can take it full frame, what happened with Kamra is, sadly, not new to Maharashtra. I've lived through it myself. 25 years ago, loyalists of the same then undivided political party stormed into my office, then vandalized it, physically assaulted me, blackened my face, and forced me to apologize publicly. By falling at the feet of an elderly woman for a single line of dialogue in my film. The line was harmless, almost trivial. The film had already been cleared by the censor board with 27 other cuts, but that didn't matter. At the so-called apology, at least 20 political figures arrived in full strength to oversee what can only be described as a public shaming, with 10,000 onlookers and the Mumbai police watching in silence. That incident didn't just bruise my blood, it bruised my spirit. It blunted my filmmaking, muted my courage, and silenced parts of me that took years to reclaim. No matter how deep the disagreement, no matter how sharp the provocation, violence, intimidation, and humiliation can never be justified. We owe ourselves and each other better. We owe ourselves dialogue, dissent, and dignity. Dialogue and dissent are two very important components of democracy. While Hansal Mehta has narrated the ordeal he has encountered about 25 years back, towards the end, he has a message that violence cannot be a response to disagreement. Can we disagree to that? Well, there is somebody who disagrees. And you know who that person is? It is Kangana Ranawat. Here enters Kangana Ranawat. Kangana Ranawat has quote retweeted Hansal Mehta, and Kangana Ranawat has put out this post. They call me names like something I will not name, I will not take the word, threatened me, served me a notice late in the night to my watchman, and next morning, before courts could open, bulldozers demolished the entire house. High Court called the demolition completely illegal. They laughed at it and raised a toast to my pain and public humiliation. It seems your insecurity and mediocrity has not only made you bitter and stupid, but it had blinded you as well. It's not some third-class series or atrocious films that you make. Don't try to sell your dumb lies and agendas here in the matters related to my ordeal. Stay out of it. I mean, Kangana Ranawat is no way related to the post that Hansal Mehta had made, but Kangana Ranawat made a very voluntary entry into the entire controversy, and Kangana Ranawat thereafter tried appropriating it, and then Kangana Ranawat tried reminding us what happened to her office space at Khar, as what bulldozers did to his Khar residence during the Sushant Singh Rajput saga. Now, Kangana Ranawat had very well appropriated this matter and tried making her the subject. Exactly how Kangana Ranawat had tried making herself the subject after the tragic demise of Sushant Singh Rajput. 14th of June 2020, Sushant Singh Rajput died. And on 15th of June 2020, Kangana Ranawat, out of nowhere, dropped a video message where she tried highlighting there is Bollywood mafia culture, and that is possibly the reason why Sushant Singh Rajput has died or committed suicide, and that it was not a mere suicide, it was abetment to suicide. He was forced to take that step, and thus it should be called a murder. This is exactly what Kangana Ranawat had said on 15th of June 2020. Again I say, from nowhere, Bollywood actor Kangana Ranaut had dropped down, parachuted down, and made this about herself. Listen in.
डाले गए, क्यों मुझे जेल में डालने की कोशिश की गई। और मुझे इनके जो चमचे जर्नलिस्ट हैं वो सुशांत जैसे लोगों पे जो ब्लाइंड आइटम्स लिखते हैं कि वो साइकोटिक है, न्यूरोटिक है, एडिक्ट है। संजय दत्त की एडिक्शन तो आपको बहुत क्यूट लगती है। वो लोग मुझे मैसेज करते हैं कि तुम्हारा बहुत डिफिकल्ट टाइम है, तुम ऐसा वैसा स्टेप मत उठा लेना। ऐसा क्यों कहते हैं मुझे? ये क्यों मेरे दिमाग में डालना चाहते हैं कि आप सुसाइड कर लीजिए? तो ये सुसाइड थी कि ये प्लान मर्डर था? लेकिन सुशांत की गलती यही है कि वो उनकी बात मान गया। उन्होंने कहा तुम वर्थलेस हो, वो मान गया। उसने ही डिडंट रिमेंबर व्हाट हिज मदर टोल्ड हिम। उन्होंने कहा कि तुम वो मान गया। वो चाहते ही ये है कि वो इतिहास लिखे और ये लिखे कि सुशांत कमजोर दिमाग का था। वो ये नहीं बताएंगे कि क्या सच्चाई क्या है। तो हमें ये डिसाइड करना है कि हु विल राइट द हिस्ट्री। वी विल डिसाइड दैट।
You heard her? Why am I digging out all these whole videos? Because CBI has now given a closure report. CBI has now given a closure report in Sushant Singh Rajput case, calling it a case of simple suicide. Has Kangana Ranaut put out any post? Her alacrity in trying to highlight her case while responding to Hansal Mehta, justifying that that demolition was also wrong, and thus if that is right, then this demolition of habitat should also be treated as right, is simply not bizarre, it is also irrational. She is simply not a Bollywood actress. She is also a member of parliament. And what she was in 2020, she was only a Bollywood actor with a lot of opinion, which essentially paved in a way for a remarkable attention in Sushant Singh Rajput case. Kangana Ranaut's jibe on nepotism and highlighting Sushant Singh Rajput's case as another case of fallout of nepotism went too far. She issued this statement from nowhere. No one asked her to come into the picture. No one. She was never examined by CBI. She was never examined by any central agency. She had no locus standi in this case. She is no way a party to this case. That is Sushant Singh Rajput. But Kangana Ranaut came into the picture, issued this statement. 5 days later, on 19th of June, she again issued another statement and directly called Sushant Singh Rajput's death a murder. Even before CBI could crack the case, anyone could crack the case, she called it a murder. Imagine, Sushant Singh Rajput's case is absolutely independent of Kangana Ranaut. Kangana Ranaut, in a way, intertwined herself, and when this demolition happened, she made it look like she had been vocal against the Uddhav Thackeray government, and that's the reason she has been a victim of being a rebel or victim for having a dissent. She is trying to justify that. She is trying to justify her position then. Should the habitat now adopt the same position as a victim of dissent? As a victim of being a dissent to the power? This is what Kangana Ranaut said on 19th of June. Listen in, 2020.
राजपूत की हत्या के बाद कई चीजें बाहर निकल के आई हैं। कुछ मैंने इंटरव्यूज पढ़े हैं, कुछ डायरेक्टली भी बात की है। तो उनके पिताजी का कहना है कि वो फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में हो रही टेंशन के करके बहुत ज्यादा परेशान थे। अभिषेक कपूर जिन्होंने उन्हें लॉन्च किया, उनके साथ हाल ही में एक फिल्म की है केदारनाथ। उनका कहना है कि इट वॉज अ सिस्टमैटिक डिसमेंटलिंग ऑफ अ फ्रजाइल माइंड। अंकिता जो उनकी लॉन्ग टर्म पार्टनर रह चुकी है, उनका कहना है कि वो सामाजिक रूप से की गई अपमान और बेइज्जती नहीं सहन कर पाया। तो अब मैं आपको बताऊंगी कि मूवी माफिया ने ना कि सिर्फ उनको बैन किया था, सिस्टमैटिक डिसमेंटलिंग, कैसे कतरा कतरा करके उनका दिमाग तोड़ा गया है, उनको मारा गया है। तो ब्लाइंड आइटम आप इसलिए लिखते हैं क्योंकि आप जब झूठ लिखना होता है, आपको के अगेंस्ट कोई लीगल एक्शन नहीं लिया सकता क्योंकि आपका तो नाम ही नहीं लिखा, मगर उसकी जो डिस्क्रिप्शन होती है, जैसे मेरे बारे में लिखा जाएगा कि जिस लड़की के घुंघराले बाल हैं, जिसको नेशनल अवार्ड मिला हुआ है, साइकोटिक है, इस तरह से जो कि मनाली से डिस्क्रिप्शन पूरी दी जाएगी मगर नाम नहीं लिखा जाएगा। 23 अगस्त 2017 को बॉलीवुड लाइफ सुशांत के बारे में लिखता है कि वो जब भी सेक्स करता है तो सिर्फ अपने ही गाने सुनता है, वो सबसे बड़ा नार्सिसिस्ट है। 16 दिसंबर 2016 में मुंबई मिरर लिखता है कि सुशांत एक ट्रक ड्राइवर की तरह लगता है। 22 फरवरी 2019 को मुंबई मिरर लिखता है कि पार्टी में तमाशा करने के बाद सुशांत ने
So Kangana Ranawat, said a lot of things during Sushant Singh Rajput case. Now, just to remind her, this was 2020, and thereafter, about 4 or 5 films of her had come out, and all of them had tanked at box office. All of them. Starting from Panga in 2020 to Thalaivi in 2021. You have Chandramukhi 2 in 2023. You have Tejas, which was a Bollywood box office disaster in 2023. Emergency, another box office disaster in 2025. And being vocal, or being so vocal about issues not concerning her at all, and making it look like eventually concerning only her and her alone, have not really helped her film career and the trajectory. So Kangana Ranawat had responded to Hansal Mehta, made it look like she had been a victim, and thus Habitat should also be a victim, and it's fun to be victim. I just want to show you something, I just want to show you something in full frame. Let me see if I can figure that out. Where is it? So, there is someone called Mr. Sinha on Twitter, and Mr. Sinha had put out this post. Okay? Mr. Sinha had put out this post on September 18, 2024. Now, because of copyright issues, we are not playing this clip on the channel per se, but we're just trying to show us what Mr. Sinha has shared. Listening to what Kangana Ranawat is saying.
राहुल गांधी पर जब आप चुनाव लड़ रही थी और आपने मेरे साथ ही साक्षात्कार किया था, राहुल गांधी ने क्या बोला था, मैं आपको सुनवा देता हूँ, वो बाइट सुनते हैं.
1 second. I'll just try and play it once more.
राहुल गांधी आपका फेवरेट टॉपिक, उस पे सवाल पूछ लेता हूँ. राहुल गांधी पर जब आप चुनाव लड़ रही थी और आपने मेरे साथ ही साक्षात्कार किया था, आपने राहुल गांधी पे क्या बोला था, मैं आपको सुनवा देता हूँ, वो बाइट सुनते हैं.
राहुल गांधी को देख के तो मुझे सच में तरस ही आता है. और
क्यों आता है आपको तरस?
मुझे वो बहुत बेचारे लगते हैं. मैंने वो नज़ारा देखा था, वो जाके प्रधानमंत्री को उनके गोद में बैठ के उनको हक कर लिया और कहते मोहब्बत की दुकान मुझे खोलनी है, फिर जाके ऐसे आंख मार दी. क्या मतलब, वो एक कार्टून यार, कम ऑन यार, मुझे हंसी आती है, मुझे एकदम कार्टून लगते हैं वो.
राहुल जी आपको कार्टून लग रहे थे तब, अब संसद में आपके साथ बैठते हैं, आपके विचार थोड़े बदले?
अब तो मुझे वो पूरा कॉमेडी शो लगते हैं. पहले तो वो मुझे कार्टून लगते हैं. पूरा कॉमेडी शो.
जिस
दिन राहुल जी संसद आते हैं उस दिन तो मतलब हमारा वो एंटरटेनमेंट वाला रहता है.
Full entertainment.
जिस तरह
एलओपी है लीड.
So this is what Kangana Ranawat, a member of parliament, is talking about, a leader of opposition, while ensuring that she is giving so much of respect to a member of parliament. She was also trying to ensure that she gets all the respect. Now, this is Kangana Ranawat suggesting about Rahul Gandhi, calling him a comedy show, calling him nothing but a comic guy, and that is acceptable. That is acceptable. But if someone says anything against Prime Minister Narendra Modi, that would become blasphemous, right? If somebody says anything against Eknath Shinde, that becomes blasphemous, right? So there are rules created by Kangana Ranawat, or I would say rules created by several BJP leaders aligned to BJP, customized, that suit them. And then there are rules for the rest of India. And thus, probably there are two Indias. Here, Kangana Ranawat is clearly making fun of Rahul Gandhi, and nobody should question that. If making fun is such an offense that Shiv Sena workers went and vandalized a hotel, ransacked a hotel, what if tomorrow Congress workers get offended by Kangana Ranawat and goes to the point of physical assault or vandalism? Will she be okay with that? Well, talking of physical assault, that reminds me, she was slapped by a CISF officer on 6th of June 2024 at Chandigarh Airport. 6th of June 2024, Kangana Ranawat was slapped by a CISF officer inside the Chandigarh Airport. The CISF officer had issued a statement and said, she had insulted my mother, she had insulted the farmers, she had insulted the farmers' protest, said 100 रुपए के लिए औरतें सड़क पे आ गई, धरने पे आ गई, मेरा माँ बैठी थी उधर, and she slapped her. Kangana Ranawat got so upset and so angry, called her a Khalistani. Watch.
आएगा मैडम, थोड़ा एक सेकंड है, आपको वेट करना पड़ेगा थोड़ी, कोई बात नहीं, सब इशू होता है।
बयान दिया था ना कि 100 रुपए के लिए बैठी है लोगों पे, ये बैठेगी वहाँ पे, मेरी माँ बैठी थी उस टाइम जब इसने बयान दिया था। पर आप मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा फ़ोन कॉल्स आ रहे हैं, मीडिया के भी और मेरे शुभचिंतकों के भी। सबसे पहले तो आई एम सेफ, आई एम परफेक्टली फाइन। आज चंडीगढ़ एयरपोर्ट पे जो हादसा हुआ वो सिक्योरिटी चेक के साथ में हुआ। वहां पे मैं सिक्योरिटी चेक करके जैसे ही निकली तो दूसरे कैबिन में जो महिला थी, जो सुरक्षा कर्मचारी थी CISF की, उन्होंने उनके पास या उनको क्रॉस करने का इंतजार किया और साइड से आकर जो है मुझे मेरे फेस पे हिट किया और गालियां देने लगी। और जब मैंने उनको पूछा कि उन्होंने ऐसा क्यों किया तो उन्होंने कहा कि वो फार्मर्स प्रोटेस्ट को जो है वो सपोर्ट करती हैं। और आई एम सेफ, बट माई कंसर्न इज कि जो आतंकवाद और उग्रवाद पंजाब में बढ़ रहा है, हाउ डू वी हैंडल दैट?
So Kangana Ranawat on one hand is trying to play the victim's card, endorsing the idea if she had been a victim then Habitat should too can be a victim and there should not be people standing up for the Habitat if people did not stand up for her. She is also trying to suggest that violence can be a response to disagreement. That essentially is the larger concern. In democracy, dissent and dialogue can only be the way forward. Tomorrow somebody dislikes what Kangana says or dislikes something said by XYZ, resorts to vandalism. It would almost lead to the point an eye for an eye. I mean, when Kangana Ranawat supports an act of vandalism or publicly endorses violence in response to disagreement,
वेट करना पड़ेगा थोड़ी, कोई बात नहीं, सब इशू।
in the case of the attack on Habitat, where there was a violent response to Kamra's comedy, endorsing such a behavior, I would say, sends the message that violence is an appropriate tool to silence or punish individuals whose views disagrees with you. And thus I say, a joke is only a joke and would only be a joke even if you do not laugh. But if you take a joke bit too seriously, trust in me, you end up making all of us look like a joke. Because we are the same country that swears by freedom of expression. You don't like something, go lodge a police complaint. There is a complaint with the police, and Kunal Kamra has been summoned. Whether he responds, goes, physically appears, that's secondary, but that's law. How can you choose to become a law yourself? And how can you craft law as per your convenience? That's all we can question at this point. Whether you find a joke funny or not, you can't really find these questions funny because they are relevant and relevant for all of us. The right to ask our questions The right to ask a question is a fundamental right. Laughing on a question could be your fundamental choice. Disagreeing with the question could be your fundamental choice. But you cannot come and slap me for questioning you or your power, the power you have displayed while trying to silence a comedy. For now, thank you so much. Take care.